Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, we're going to talk about Red vs. Blue. Why? Because I found out it's on Netflix recently. So this is kind of an old hat. This is Red vs. Blue has been around longer than YouTube has been. They first went up, or I first saw them on a website called, I think, Heavy.com or SuperHeavy.com or something like that. And they started back in the era of like Homestar Runner and stuff like that. And around that time, I don't know if they popularized it or if somebody else started doing it and they kind of picked up and ran with their own thing. But people were doing a lot of what they called machinimas. This was before like Machinima was a big company that swindled YouTubers. Machinimas were like you, kind of like our MechWarrior series, where you play a game and then you use the game stuff to do your story, pretty much. So like if you, in this particular case, they had a bunch of characters from the game Halo, and they stood around and they just talked about how meaningless their lives were, fighting over Blood Gulch, because they have two small bases in a box canyon, and if the enemy takes over their base, then they have two bases in a box canyon. And there's no like strategic significance or importance to any of this at all, and they don't understand why they're trying to steal each other's flags, and there's not like a victory or anything like that once they take the flag. So the whole thing's just kind of a comedy about like what if real people actually had to do these multiplayer death matches. And the joke is that for the most part they avoided each other because they didn't want to be shot, and they kind of lived in peace because there was nothing to fight over and no advantage to defeating the enemy team. So they just like hated each other on principle, and it was kind of fun. It was a fun series. They had a lot of they had funny jokes and some good setup, some good insults and things like that. And I used to follow it while it was going along. And I actually followed it all the way up till season 10, which is when they started doing like a whole animation thing on its own. Like they actually started doing fully animated scenes. They did some animation prior to that, but season 10 or 9 and 10, I think it was 9 and 10, is when they actually started doing like character like facial animations. Like you got to see the people underneath their helmets somewhat. And so I followed it up until then, and then I remember seeing the big announcement for like, we're going to do an animated Red vs. Blue. And I thought to myself like, oh, that's cool. I got to remember to check up on them when that comes out. And then I didn't check up on them because I forgot, because it took a long time, and I'm afraid, like many people, that's just kind of how it is. You don't check up on a thing for a while, and then you forget about it. So yes, so I followed Red vs. Blue up until then, and I was kind of curious to see what they were going to do, because the last thing you find out is like it starts off and they're really not planning anything. It's just kind of a funny series and people enjoy it, so they just keep doing it. But you can tell that as they go on, they kind of get bored with just like making quips in the Blood Gulch set. So they move along. Like Halo came out with some new stuff. They released new games, and when they did so, the team felt the need to upgrade and move on and do new things. So like I remember one of the first twists that they came up with was they had Tex show up, and Tex is supposed to be the super badass freelancer. She's a gun for hire, and so the Blood Gulch guys are like, oh, we need help, and so she comes down to fight with them. And she's one of the characters is named Church, and she's Church's girlfriend or former girlfriend, but she's mean, and she's even meaner because she has an AI in her head that makes her really mean. The AI is called Omega. And this is important because there's other AIs and they're all named things like Beta, Theta, Delta, Gamma, this is 5, Omega. Yes. So, anyway though, so Omega makes her really mean-tempered, and it can move from helmet to helmet or whatever. It can just move from like person to person, which is contradictory to season 9 and 10. Like season 9 and 10 don't make any sense, but in like season 10 they show you how you get the AI, and you have to have like stuff implanted into your body to be able to receive the AI apparently. And like at one point, they even, to get the AI out of someone, I think that they like rip the AI implant out of the other person. So somehow though, in the original, let's not talk about season 9 and 10. We'll get there. I mean, they contradict themselves, and they do it pretty brazenly. So anyway, though, yes, the whole plot revolves around, like, oh, yes, Omega is on the loose, and Omega doesn't like cheese crackers, so he has a sworn duty to hunt down cheese crackers and kill anyone who enjoys cheese crackers, which is everyone, so everyone's going to die. And, everyone panics because, the fate of cheese crackers are in the balance, and also their lives. So they fart around to a couple of different maps, and then they eventually get like blown up in a bomb, and then they're like, oh, the bomb blew us into the future, where all the graphics are better, and that's how they explain their transition over to the newer graphics. They're like, yes, we're in the future. And it's funny because they did sort of a remaster. The one that's on Netflix doesn't have the old graphics. The old original stuff was using like old original Halo, so the graphics were not nearly as good. You could tell. But the HD version is like they're using the updated models already, so they just like get blown up, and then they just like come to the conclusion that they're in the future, even though they really don't look that much different, and there's no reason to really think that they're like 800 years in the future or whatever it is that they say. So yes, at this point they kind of just get distracted. Like I felt like they didn't really know what to do, so they kind of just fart around, and they talk about like they build a bomb and they're gonna blow up the guy who's got the Omega AI, and da 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 da, and they kind of just waste time. And the fun of the series isn't really like where are they gonna go or what are they gonna do, because it's sort of about the dialogue. It's about the character interactions. Like you get to enjoy the characters and what they do and the things that they're saying to each other. So it's that's where the fun is at. It's not really the plot, because the plot is dumb. And yeah, you just keep going for a while, and then I can't let me say, like they blow up something, or they don't blow up some things. They build a bomb, and then it turns out the bomb can talk, and there's like a computer, and the computer is like thousands of years old, and it doesn't matter because it's all dumb and none of it really makes any sense. It's a comedy. You're supposed to laugh and have fun and enjoy the way that it goes. So yeah, so the bomb starts talking to them, and the bomb's kind of a jerk. And yes, my dog is grumpy. I'm noisy, but not really paying attention to her. So yes, anyway, yeah, the bomb doesn't blow up. The bomb just snarks, and so they basically build another snarking machine. And they fart around for a long time, and then there's like an alien that shows up, and the alien's like, come on, we have to go on a quest, guys. So they go on a quest for a little while, and then the alien lays an egg inside one of the characters, and then they come home, and they give birth to the alien. It's like a tiny little alien. And then it turns out that I guess the entire plan was for the AI to get into the suit of the alien, and then the little alien is like their Jesus or something like that. So when he introduces himself to the aliens, he'll put himself into their mainframe computer, and I don't know. He'll defeat all the aliens. And I think this must have been written like before Halo 3 came out, when you befriend the aliens. Because I know in Halo 3, like, you run around, and in Player 2, I believe Player 2 always had to play as the Arbiter, one of the alien. You know, he was alien, and I think that was an important deal. I can't recall for sure. It's been so long since I played Halo 3. And Halo 3 was also kind of a blur for me. Like, everybody played Halo 1 and 2, and they were all like, oh man, you gotta get into Halo. And I didn't until Halo 3. I had a friend who was like, let's play Halo together. Let's play the co-op mission. And I remember being really bored through long stretches of Halo 3. Like, there were times that it was fun, and then there were times when the campaign was just like, God, are we there yet? Are we there yet? This is getting a little tedious. Like, there's a lot of stuff to shoot, and I know that's the whole game, but I mean, like, it's the same. It's the same everywhere we go. Like, when do we move on? Some of it was cool, some of it was not. Like, I remember enjoying having the airplanes. And then, like, I think you could have your friend stand on the wings of the airplane or something like that. And so there was, like, these big walking things. And so what we'd do is we'd have, like, one of us stand on the wings of the airplane. We'd, like, dump them into the big walker robot. And then once you were inside the walker robot, you could blow it up. So I think we enjoyed doing that. Like, you were supposed to knock down their legs. And then as they fell, you could climb up into them. But, yeah, it was much faster to just jump a guy. You know, just airdrop. Go, buddy, go. Yeah. So... yes, anyway, I don't recall if they did that. So that's where they ended the first thing, was they had the character kind of Tex gets in an airplane, and she flies away, and the airplane blows up. And by this point, though, like, two characters have died. Tex has died, and Church has died. But then they come back as ghosts, and they possess other bodies until finally someone builds them like robot bodies, and they possess the robot bodies. And so it didn't really feel like there was a plan for this, really. It was just sort of like a joke. Like, they didn't want to kill off a character permanently, so, like, they killed the character, and then he just came back as a ghost, and then he snarked at them, well, you know, from the ghost as a ghost for a while. So, yeah. What they do after that is they expand on it. Like, they go into their next season, and they're like, oh, no, it turns out that actually Church is an AI. and he's a computer program. That's how he's able. That's why when you kill him, he just like comes back as a ghost. He's not really a ghost. He's just like downloaded into everyone's suits. So he just keeps coming back. And I don't know how that works exactly because they kill him once or twice and it's a big deal, but I don't know where he goes or if he's like, where is he being stored or anything like that. Because at one point he complains that he had to delete a bunch of information to be stored in somebody's suit. But, I mean, obviously he didn't have to previously. But again, this is like, it comes back to, they didn't really have a plan. But the game, the whole thing, it gets to be like a little bit more drama. And it's just a little bit more drama. It's still mostly comedy, but like this super badass guy shows up. This another freelancer similar to Tex. He shows up and he's like, "Hey, I'm doing this and I'm hunting for this. I'm looking for these other AIs. And there's this thing called the Meta. It's a guy. He's a former agent. He's gone insane. His agent Maine. He's gone insane." And so he's like explaining this thing, and there's a little bit more drama. It's a little bit more interesting. There's kind of like a goal that they have, like they're trying to get from point A to point B. So there's an actual kind of moving story as opposed to just like random things happening and stuff blowing up in everyone's face. And I think that this is probably my favorite part of Red vs. Blue, because it felt like not only were they being silly and stupid, but they were being silly and stupid in kind of a direction. And I sort of wanted to see like where are you going and what are you doing with all this stuff. So yeah. So they do eventually find the thing that they're going for, but then they set off like an EMP, and the EMP actually permanently kills Church. And I can't recall what happens to Tex, but I believe that she is just not found for a while. So after they kill Church, they find out that they were able to save like his memories. And at first they started off, they go into this whole thing where they're like, oh yeah, split personalities. So what they had was there's this one AI, this one core AI, and they tortured it, and it developed multiple personalities, which became separate AIs, which were harvested and put into the other freelancers. And that's why some of the AI were crazy and were driving people crazy, because they were fragments of craziness that broke off to protect the main AI. So the main AI gets erased, along with a bunch of the other AI. But the memory unit that remembers all the stuff that happens survives, and the memory unit effectively becomes the new Church because he has all of Church's memories. And they start fighting around with him for a while in this new kind of thing. And again, the whole thing's kind of comical and fun, and they expand a little bit on some of their lore that they've created. And it doesn't really jive or match up with the things that they said previously. But again, you overlook it because it's all like funny and it's fun. So you just kind of like, you go along. And you find out more about the whole Project Freelancer thing and about the guy who ran it, who was actually the main AI was based off of the guy who ran Project Freelancer. So you find out a little bit about him. You run into Tex again, and then Tex beats everybody up. And this was like one of their first animated scenes that they did. Is like they run into Tex again, and she beats up the whole team, and it's just like super badass. Nobody can stop her. Da 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 da. And so she betrays Church and like shoots him so that his armor will send off a beacon, a warning beacon, or a help beacon, which then the other freelancers can track down so that Tex can beat up the other freelancers. She wants to kill them. So she picks a fight with them and then she loses. She gets put in an AI unit. And so then Church goes, oh, well, I'm going to go in this AI unit and I'm going to find her. And so it looks like this was where they were going to end the series. And it actually felt like a really good place to end it. Because it's a very final. Church goes into the AI unit, and he's like the last remaining AI fragment. The rest are all gone. And he gets trapped. Like the AI unit shuts down, and they say like, well, it's so badly damaged, we're not going to be able to salvage it. So he's just in there forever now. Like that's it. He's done. He's gone. It's over. That's Red vs. Blue, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for viewing. You have a great day. And then I'm told that one of the core writers for Red vs. Blue left. I guess I don't know why, what happened. Maybe he felt like this was a good finale and he didn't want to write anymore. Like he was just done with the project. He felt like it was over. The story was told, but they wanted to keep going with it. So they actually started doing this original animation thing. This was like season 9 or season 10 or something like that. And season 9 and 10 is actually what prompted me to want to do this personal time. Because, I mean, otherwise, like, most of you guys know Red vs. Blue, and this is probably all, like, if you've seen it, or maybe not most of you guys, people who are in their late 20s and early 30s, you're aware of Red vs. Blue, all of us young folks. And anyway, yes, no, you guys know about Red vs. Blue. This might be new for some of you. You can watch it on Netflix if you're interested. But anyway, though, they come back, and like season 9 tries to be funny, but it's not especially funny, and it focuses more on kind of the past of Project Freelancer. But here's the thing, like, if any of you guys have seen RWBY, also made by Rooster Teeth, like, I remember when I watched RWBY, like, I watched a couple episodes, and then somebody was like, so what do you think? And I said, well, like, the action scenes are really creative and really interesting, and I like to see them. But, man, like, the writing is really bad. Like, the dialogue is super cringy. Like, I feel really embarrassed sometimes when the characters say things, and I'm not under the impression I'm supposed to. Like, I really dislike a lot of the characters. Like, I really want them to die, and I really feel like, because they walk around and they would, like, just say things, and they were just, like, stupid things, and it was like they were trying to provoke a laugh out of me, but it was all really, just childish kind of humor. They did a lot of slapstick. I mean, like, they were doing, like, belch comedy, like, where somebody would just, like, burp, and it was, like, not well timed or funny or anything. It was just, like, the burp by itself, like, completely, like, just, like, a burp in a vacuum was supposed to be, like, you know, gut-bustingly hilarious, and it was just kind of like, man, like, RWBY has really bad writing. But, like, visually, it's stimulating, you know, it's visually interesting. So, Red vs. Blue, when they first started animating, has trace elements of this. I begin to see, like, the cracks where the writing started to drop away and become really kind of bad and not funny. And they start to have, like, animation, and the animation is, like, really good and kind of visually interesting, but completely without substance. I can't really tell you exactly what's going on, but they look back and they have Project Freelancer, and they fight these guys. And the guys they fight all wear black armor, so you know that they're not good. Like, it's black and red. Like, the visors are red and the helmets are black, except for when they're wearing white. And it's super unclear who they're fighting or what they're fighting for. They keep referring to them as the Insurrection, but I don't know, like, who they're insurrecting against. They mention every now and then, they're like, hey, do you think that maybe we're not the good guys in Project Freelancer? And I kept thinking to myself, like, well, you know, you haven't really established any sides in your writing, so I don't really know who the good guys or bad guys are. All I know is that you are Project Freelancer. And so they have, like, one character, I think South Carolina. There's like South Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, South Dakota, North Dakota. It's one of the South North states. And anyway, they're like twins, and the girl is like really bitchy and just like complains all the time. And what's funny is that they have this walk that they animate, and in my opinion, it's not really a very good casual walk cycle, but it's what I would call like a pro wrestler walk, where a lot of the characters kind of like walk, but it's got this sort of like jaunty, like, you know, swagger to it. Like they're trying to look big and everything like that. Like you see this a lot in pro wrestling when people come up on stage and they're doing their best to look like they're really, you know, oh, I'm really big and I'm really intimidating. And it comes across as very insecure because it makes it look like these people think that they aren't very big and they need to make themselves look bigger. So you got these guys like walking around, and you know, they're not big enough. If you see like a big hulking character, like sometimes they'll walk over and they'll have that walk, but it works because they're big enough. You know, like they're huge and they're kind of hunched over. It's sort of like a gorilla walk, and it works for them because their bodies are drawn or animated to be that big. But for like humanoid, like these are sort of like normal sized looking humanoids. I mean, a little tall, because they're supposed to be like the Spartans from Halo, but they just kind of look like normal guys, but they still walk around with this, like, you know, pro wrestler sort of thing. And so they're doing this, they're walking around with this pro wrestler swagger, and they're just like bad mouthing each other. They're like, you're a double dork, I hate you, and they just come across as kind of like, God, man, like these are supposed to be the cream of the crop. Like these are the freelancers, right? These are the guys who like kill people for a living and they don't even think about it. Like they're as good as it gets, you know. Like this is the top of the list, and it's just sort of like they're barely aged out of being like I would say maybe 15 years old. Like I would say that a lot of the characters are like maybe at about that mental level. Maybe not a lot of them, but some of them definitely are. Some of them definitely behave like they're about 15 years old. Maybe 17. In a couple of other cases. And they like, it's really funny because they all like, they walk around and they're like, hey, and then they say something cryptic. like, you know, like like you, the audience, know what they're referring to, but like they kept doing this, and I kept thinking, like, because it wasn't funny. And this was the thing, is that like Red versus Blue, they do a lot of things, they have a lot of plot holes, and they say a lot of things that don't line up, and you know, if you don't think about it, it's fun, it's a fun ride, but it's not a drama initially, it's a comedy. So in season 9 and 10, they go from comedy to drama, and they start like telling me, like, all right, listen, everything I tell you is totally serious. Like, it's not for laughs. It's not funny. All right, this is for real. This happened. These are the badass. This is the badass story of the badasses. I was like, okay, all right, go ahead. And so like character A walks up to character B, and he's like, hey, memory is the key. And like it's like this sort of cryptic thing that you hear, like it's repeated throughout the show or whatever, but it's not like in the context of character A saying this to character B, like it doesn't make any sense. Like there's no reason for character A to say this kind of thing, and they keep doing this. Like they have these conversations where they're like, yeah, listen, like, you know, you never salsa on Tuesday. And if you know like the significance of Tuesday based on what happens in the Red versus Blue series, then okay, yeah, that would make sense. But these characters who are speaking right now have no reason to say that. Like there's no contextual reason for them to talk about salsa on Tuesday. This is not actually a thing that's in Red versus Blue, but it's like, it's just an example. Like just like, you know, never salsa on Tuesday, buddy. And then they're just like, huh. And they act like it's really profound. You know, and it feels profound if you don't think about it in a way, because they say it like it's profound, and you, the viewer, know the significance of it. But in terms of what these characters are saying, it should like the other guy should turn to him and be like, no, never salsa on a Tuesday, what? Like, what are you talking about, Steve? And Steve will be like, listen, just never salsa on a Tuesday. I don't know, my dad used to say it. Like, just don't do it. You know, so yeah. There's no reason for them to talk to each other so cryptically, or to be like that, or to say these weird things, and because their writing is really bad, what they wind up doing, like their animation is solid, like visually speaking, their animation is really good. So they just rely really, really heavily on this animation thing. So they're just like, yeah, we have to go to Disney World and battle Disney World, and everyone's like, oh man, Project Freelancer's so cool and powerful, gotta battle Disney World. So they go to Disney World, and they're like, hey, Disney World, boom, 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 and they pull out guns, and they start shooting with this. They just, like, they battle a bunch of soldiers at Disney World. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't freaking matter where they are. They're just, like, having this gunfight. Like, they're just like, it's the tower. Now we're on an oil rig. We're in a space station. Maybe it's a satellite. I don't know. Oh, it was the trap. We were trapped. Now we're on the freeway. And so they just kind of like, they're just farting around from like place to place, and everything is like this big gratuitous gunfight. And they mix it up though with, and this is the thing, like RWBY does this too. Like when I watched RWBY, I got the feeling that the guys who made RWBY really liked anime, and they really wanted to do their own anime. Because you see a lot of those sort of like tropes, and the Red vs. Blue animated series did the same thing, where they would have these characters like do something, like they would like fall on their butts or just do something, and it kind of had that, it was like very light in that. RWBY went like full tilt with it, where RWBY was just like, yeah, anime tropes. But Red vs. Blue, they went kind of light with it, and like, I don't know if someone was there like fighting it, and they're like, listen, let's not go full-blown anime, and somebody was like, no, full-blown anime is fun. Yeah, they just kind of do this. Like, they have a scene where they give Agent Washington, like a jetpack, and they're like, all right, so be careful with it and don't overcommit to the thruster, because otherwise you'll wind up like Agent Georgia. And then he's like, well, what happened to Agent Georgia? And they're like, oh, you don't want to know. And the trouble is that they don't say it like that, like, oh, you don't want to know. Like, they're like, you don't want to know! And then they, like, fly away, or they run off, and they keep doing this to him. And it's not like, it sounds like they're teasing him throughout the entire thing. It's not like they're just like, oh, no, you don't want to know. Like, they don't create, like, a sense of fear. Like, over and over again, he keeps saying them. They're like, oh, remember, like, don't be like Agent Georgia. And he's like, what happened to Agent Georgia? And he's like, oh, you don't want to know. And then they fly away. And it's kind of like, all right, yeah, I get it. This is supposed to be funny for, like, this is why they say it like this, because here's the joke. Ba-dum-tsh. Like, here you go. Goodbye! And they fly away. And so finally they get to the payoff, and because they've been selling it as a joke every single time they say it, and they've been acting like they're teasing Agent Washington, finally they get to the payoff of this joke where he's like flying behind, like they're trying to like rendezvous with another, like with a dropship, and they're trying to like fly into the dropship, and like so everyone flies into the dropship, and then like Washington stays behind them, and they're like, come on Washington, you gotta gun it, like punch down that button and get in here. And he's like, I don't want to wind up like Agent Georgia. So they hit him with a grappling hook, and then they tow him along behind, in this like slapstick comedy fashion. And he's like, "Oh no, I'm being towed by a grappling hook," and it's like really bad. It's really, I mean, like, it wouldn't necessarily be bad writing, but like the delivery and the way that they set it up, maybe you could say it was bad directing. But they just keep doing this, and they make it sound like it's a stupid joke, and like they're teasing Washington. And so finally, when he gets to like the point where like, they keep teasing Washington, and it just sounds like teasing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm afraid to punch the button on this thing. Like, what if I wind up like Agent Georgia?" Yeah, I mean, like, there's two ways to interpret it. Either Washington is genuinely scared of what the thing will do, or two, he's just stupid. Because it's a life and death situation. Like, he needs to get on the dropship. Like, if he doesn't get on the dropship, he's going to die. So his option is to man up and push the button and get on board the dropship, or die, So he doesn't have a choice. There's no reason for him to be scared. Because it's like, oh, well, what if I push the button and I die? And it's like, well, if you don't push it, you're definitely going to die. You might die if you lay too hard on the button. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't get it. Like if maybe he'd been scared, like he'd been arguing, it would have been better to have him argue with the person who is like flying the dropship. Because he'd be like, slow down. You have to slow down. They'd be like, we can't. We have to maintain a specific, like, if we slow down, we won't be able to maintain flight altitude. And he'd be like, well, just, can you slow down a little bit? Can you descend just a little ways? And they'd be like, no, go. It could have had a discussion. There could have been some ways to play it up, but they just kept selling it as a joke. And then finally, when they get to the payoff, it's kind of like, "Oh, guys, here's where the payoff is. Here it is. I'm scared to be like Agent Georgia." And they're like, "All right, slapstick comedy." Woo. So yes, not particularly funny. And what was really bad about that is the way they keep doing this. They do the slapstick and they do the whole thing like, "Oh, you don't want to be like Georgia," is that they want you to believe that these guys are badasses, but then they kind of undermine the characters because, I mean, like, if you're this super elite badass and you're like, you kill people for a living, and then you get to this point where you have like a live or die situation, and then you just like screw around and you don't, like, you refuse to take a risk because, like, the risk is scary even though all that's behind you is death. Like, I don't know, it makes them just look dumb and childish, and like they can't rationally think through obvious problems. I mean, like, there wasn't anything else for this guy to do. So yeah, they really kind of undermine their characters through a lot of season 9 and 10. And at first it was kind of interesting because they like established them, and they're like, oh, okay, so there's like super badasses because they do this opening fight scene, and there's all this kind of cool stuff going on, like they blow stuff up and everything's on fire and all these people die, and these are like generic soldiers, we're never going to see them again. We get away from this oil rig, and I think to myself, like, oh, cool, all right, so the freelancers are like super mega badasses. They take down like a whole platoon all by themselves. Okay, got it. But then they just keep on going and going and going, and you find that like the characters, there's no power level. Like, there's no point where the writers really said, like, this is what this guy can do and this is what that guy can do. They just kind of have them do anything depending on what the situation calls for. So, like, for example, there's one scene, like, they get on this freeway, and, like, a character gets shot, and then he gets shot multiple times, and then he's fine. Like, he just kind of gets up off of it. So I'm not really sure, but apparently it caused, like, it wounded him, and they talk about how that wounded him. So I'm not sure, like, he gets shot, like, numerous times, and I'm not sure exactly, like, what point of that was really dangerous for him. Like, was it that he was shot multiple times, or was it the one shooting, or what happened? And then there's a scene where, like, Tex calls down for a motorcycle, and she's like, deliver a motorcycle. And they're like, okay. And so she rides this motorcycle, and then Agent, it's not Vermont, Agent, Carolina, that's what it was. It was just Carolina. She like runs. She has super speed, I guess. So she's just like, oh, I don't want to be upstaged by Tex. So she just runs and then catches up to Tex on her motorcycle by running, which was really confusing because I don't know, like, could Tex actually run that fast? Like, how fast can these guys run? Is it only Carolina that does super speed, or do they all do super speed? Like, what's the deal? Because they establish in the show that, like, you get these AIs to control the superpowers that the suits have, because the suits do have superpowers, but nobody has an AI yet, so in theory they shouldn't be able to use the powers, I guess, because it could be fatal. So I don't know if she's just, like, using her super speed and she's not supposed to be or whatever, but they don't really establish it because the writing's really bad. So she just runs faster than this motorcycle, And, I don't know. I have no idea what relative power anyone is. They keep running into characters, and the characters are like, well, I'm the badass, and I would do the badass thing. And there's just, like, no sense of scale. Like, I have no idea what's going on. So we get into, like, the second season 10. And season 10, they just drop all pretenses of being a comedy. Like, it's not funny at all anymore. Like, there's a few lines that are okay, but for the most part, it's completely drama. So they start having these scenes where, like, they're remembering, like, oh, remember when Stan said he loved me? Like, he took I took his lighter and called him gay. Like, remember, that was love. That was love. And yeah, so like, they start getting into, like, that kind of thing. I mean, the me adding the gay thing, that's my own touch of comedy. They actually don't, they play it straight. They play it totally straight. But they keep hammering that Carolina is really resentful of Tex, and, like, she wants to beat Tex. She wants to beat Tex, and they keep coming back to this. It's like the major plot hook. And Church is like, oh, you gotta let it go, Carolina. You gotta move on. You can't be focused on being better than Tex. Like, I had to forget Tex. I had to move on from Tex. We all have to move on from Tex. And Carolina's like, no, I hate Tex. I gotta overcome Tex. I gotta be better than Tex. Everything's better than Tex. Nothing's like Texas toast. I freaking hate Texas toast. Like, if I could have $1 for every time I hated Texas toast, I would have $1 because I currently hate it. And I haven't, like, unhated it and then gone back to, so just consistently hated, I would get $1. So yeah, so they're just, she's just like, oh, you're so focused on killing Tex. So yes, they go through all this and they do a bunch of things and none of it really matters. And they keep having these fight scenes and none of the fight scenes really matter. And then they have CT, one of their friends, betrays them, and it's not clear who she's betraying them to, but they're trying to establish that, like, CT is a good guy, even though they've been fighting the people that CT is betraying them to. So, like, I don't know, like, the people who are fighting him, I guess, presumably would kill the other people in Project Freelancer, so CT really is setting her friends up to be killed, or at the very least arrested, and I don't know, and CT's like, no, you don't understand, like, they're the good guys, they're not an insurrection. And then they talk about, like, well, if we escape, then, maybe I can bargain with them and give them my armor, and they'll give us a waiver. They won't take us to prison. And it doesn't really matter. They have these fight scenes, and then at one point they have these two characters, and again, this is one of these examples of, like, this is something that Ruby would totally have done, I feel like. But you run into these two guys, and they have, like, these Gatling guns. Like, these, like, spin up Gatling guns, the type of thing that the Heavy uses in, like, Team Fortress 2. And they've got, like, smiley faces printed on the front. And the smiley face was kind of cool. Like, I think of that as a funny thing. Like, I always really like that when you see, like, messages written on bombs and things like that. Or when you have the military guys who would paint, like, pictures of their wives on the plane. Like, stuff like that is cool. That kind of, like, personalization of, like, there's a bit of superstition. It makes you feel more trusting of your weaponry and everything like that. Or whatever. Like, I like that as an element. But apparently these people are, like, really committed to role-playing it. I think the other one might have had a sad face on hers. Because what they do is, like, one of them just, like, laughs, and that's all that they do. And the other one, like, cries. But it's, like, really annoying crying. Like, it's a weird mocking crying. And so what they do is they just stand there in the open, and they just, like, lay down suppressing fire. And so the guys are standing around. They're like, oh, no, what do we do? Like, they're firing 1,000 rounds per minute. And, like, nobody brings up ammunition. Like, no one is like, well, I don't know, like, when do you think they're going to run out of ammo? Because they have to eventually. They just sit there and they're like, oh, yeah, we're super pinned down. These guys are just, suppressing fire. And that's really hard to deal with. So, yeah. And I don't know, like, it's just like, super dumb, so dumb. So they killed them with, like, a box. They crushed them with a box. It wasn't important. You never really get an explanation for why they, like, cry and laugh. But their leader, like, CT keeps talking to him, and she's like, we need to leave. We have to leave. We have to escape. And, like, their leader's like, no, I can't leave the guys behind. And I just can't help but think that, like, these are people who are so committed to their murder role-playing that they, like, laugh and cry, like, while they're firing their weapons. And they're just like, I mean, like, these people are seriously mentally ill. Like, I don't know what they are, but they would be serial killers if they weren't in the military. And you probably, like, they joined the military because they hoped that they were going to get to kill people. Like, they probably eat the bodies. And it's probably a weird, gross sex thing when they do it, too. It's probably awful. So I can't imagine why this guy, like, with as weird as they make these villains, I can't imagine why this guy was like, no, I can't leave my friends behind. Like, they have this weird sex murder fetish. I need to protect them. You know, so I was just like, God, just leave them. Like, your friends are awful and I hate them. But he refuses to leave, and so CT gets shot. And it's supposed to be like this dramatic moment, but you really don't get to know CT very well. So it turns out that CT had stored up a bunch of data incriminating the freelancers, because the freelancers have done a lot of nothing. I don't know exactly what it is that they were doing, but it was all bad apparently. I mean, like in the context of Red versus Blue, you find out that the big thing that they did was they were torturing the AI was a thing that wasn't against the law, but they were going to have hearings about it and make it against the law and possibly like retroactively jail this guy for breaking the law. Like, I mean, that's not actually how laws work. You can't really do that because it would be pandemonium if you had if you passed a law and then everyone who had broken the law in the past got arrested. Like, you know, nobody could plan for that. Like, you don't do that with laws, generally speaking. So, like, the director, that was the thing about the director that made it kind of like, oh, gee, I wonder where they're going to go with this. Back before the writing got really dumb, was you had this director of this program, and he tortured an AI to break it into multiple AIs for use with his field agents. And, like, whatever laws they were going to bust him on, it would have had to have been pre-existing laws, because you don't just make new laws and then retroactively arrest people on the basis of those new laws having to be made. You would make those laws, and then you would take the director off of his project, and you would fire him or something like that. You know, you might strip him of his ranks or something. You might do something, but you certainly wouldn't, you know, you certainly wouldn't create a law right then and there. So yeah, so they're just like, yeah, the director's really evil, and he's done some things, and I think that maybe he was stealing supplies or something. Like, I'm not really sure what it was that he was doing, but it was bad, I guess. So yeah, that happens, and some things happens, and nothing matters, and it's all stupid. And so then they all get together, like all the Red versus Blue guys get together, and Church is like, hey, we figured out where to find the director, and so we're going to go and we're going to shoot him because he's a bad man. And the other characters bring up a very good point. They say, why? Why? Like, he's been disgraced, he no longer has any kind of military capacity, he's not coming after us, he's not doing anything, he's just, like, going to die of old age now. Like, this is it, like, the battle is over. And Church is like, no, well, I mean, like, revenge. And so everyone else is like, well, that's your battle, it's not ours, so we're just going to stay here. And it actually makes a lot of sense. Like, it makes emotional sense, it makes logical sense. Like, there's no reason to join Church in this whole thing. And so Church gets really mad, and he's like, well, you guys all suck anyway, and I don't need you. Except it's not like that kind of thing where it's just sort of like, well, you guys all suck, and you've never been there for me. He like, blows up on them, and then, you know, blames them for all of his problems, and then everyone kind of leaves in a huff. Including Caboose, who's always been the comedically stupid foil for everything. Like, he doesn't play foil in this because they wanted to have the scene be all dramatic and sad because Church yelled at everyone, even though all he's ever done is yelled at people. So, yes, they have this one big dramatic change. They have this big dramatic change in attitude. Like, everyone abandons Church because he yelled at them, just like he always does. And they're just like, oh, well, we can't help someone who yells. That would make us really sad. So, yes, my dog has allergies. I don't know if that's going to be picked up on the mic or not, but you can hear her sneezing. She's sneezy. Okay. So anyway, though, yeah. So Church and Carolina, they're like, well, let's go kill the director. And again, I bring back the fact that, like, Carolina's been brought up to be like this, you know, I'm obsessed with Tex. I want to kill Tex. Like, everyone's like telling her, just drop it. Like, you don't have to be better. You don't have to be better than Tex. Tex is gone now. Tex is dead. Tex was an AI. She was a computer program. She wasn't even a real person. You don't have to compare yourself to that. It's not fair. Just move along. And so they get to the director, and they find that what the director has done is he's made like 50 copies of Tex. And he's got them all in, like, robot suits. And so Carolina's like, oh, no, I could never beat Tex. Now that there's 50 of Tex, how will I ever beat her? And again, I gotta point out, this was a major point of the writing, where they have, like, Carolina's like, I'm really obsessed with being better than Tex. And then she's faced down with, like, 50 of Tex. And it occurred to me, like, right then and there, that, I mean, like, although the writing was really bad throughout most of this thing, like, it really wasn't very funny, and it really wasn't very good, but the animation was alright, and I was curious to see where they were going with everything. Like, when I got to that point, I realized that whoever was writing didn't know what they were doing, because they kind of had this like hook, this character arc, this character development where they kept hammering like, they're like, okay, I'm obsessed with Tex, I'm obsessed with Tex. And if you think about it, like anyone could write that, right? Like that's a very normal kind of thing. Like, oh, I really want to beat this. I want to be the very best. You know, I want to be like no one ever was. You know, to beat Tex is my real test. And that's it. That's my cause. So yeah. So she's, you know, like it's easy. That's easy. You can follow that, and you can have a character repeat that over and over again. And you can have other characters say like, oh, give up the fight, because you see that in other things. But what you don't see is really the greater grasp of how this works into a story. Like this is kind of like a little bit more of the fiddly under mechanics and things like that. So what you would want to do is have kind of a dramatic moment where like you get your one-on-one, or you get a discussion or whatever, and what they find out, I mean, like for whatever reason, Tex is also screwed up because she's an AI. And the director's been experimenting on her, although I'm not really clear on why he was doing that or what was going on or what exactly. Like, it turns out the director was also obsessed with Tex and didn't want to let her go. So I don't know why he messed with her. But yeah, at any rate, what they wind up doing is the reason why there are 50 of Tex is not because of any writing thing or because they wanted to gracefully resolve this character's arc, but because they wanted another gratuitous fight scene. So, like, whoever was in charge, whoever was directing was like, yeah, what we need right here is for there to be, like, 50 of Tex, so that when we have our big finale fight scene, we can beat up 50 of this character. And then, you know, there'll be, like, all these things, because what they really like to do with their animations, I noticed, was they have a lot of overlapping action, you know, like they have this explodes and that knocks this over here, and like the choreography is actually like, it's all really very clever, and like the planning is also, it's pretty amazing. Like they do a really good job with these fight scenes, so it's very dramatic, it's very big, there's lots of cool stuff going on. But one-on-one you don't get to do as much of that, because two characters are really only going to bounce like two people off each other. You're not going to like throw one person into another person and have them bounce off of another person, and then one guy gets sucked into a jet intake, and then the jet engine, you know, the jet engine flies off and blows up and kills like 3 or 4 other guys. So without like 50 people, you can't do all this crazy like fight choreography. It would just have to be like one intense fight scene. Like you would just have to have them like fight each other until they got tired, and then they would like, you know, clinch, and then they'd be like throwing knees and elbows and like headbutts and things like that until eventually they could physically go on no longer. And like your breaking point in this like solo, this one-on-one battle would be that Tex is a machine and never gets tired, whereas Carolina just gradually gets worn down because she's made of flesh and blood. Like, that's, if you asked me to do it, that's how I would do it, is I would have them fight, and they would be evenly matched, but then eventually it would get to be to where, like, Carolina starts to put, like, Tex in it. You know, she's like, I'm trying to clinch Tex so I can get a chance to breathe, and I can't keep going, and, like, Tex just doesn't get tired. She's a robot, so Tex just keeps walloping her until eventually they figure out their way around this. You know, after Carolina makes peace with the fact that she was never going to live up to Tex, and it was an impossible goal, or whatever you want to, however you want to conclude that arc, whatever message you may have wanted. After that, then you have your resolution. But when you have 50 of this character, it's terrible, because what Carolina does is she just runs out there and she just totally like floors 50 of these characters, because it's a big fight scene. You need the choreography, and you got to throw one of them into a jet engine. The jet engine's gonna blow up, and it's got to kill like another 5 of them, and so on and so forth. So she floors like 10 of them. You know, she's like beating them around, she's knocking them around, and then she starts to lose, and she's like, I can't beat Tex. And I thought that was really funny, because it's sort of like, well, I mean, clearly you can beat Tex, because you just like walloped like 10 of Tex. You know, you flattened her effortlessly numerous times. The problem is you can't beat 50 of Tex. Like, you can't do 50 on 1. And to be fair, those are really bad odds. So, you know, like, it seems that you've well surpassed Tex by now. It's just you haven't surpassed her 50 times over. So, character arc over, you succeeded. You actually won, you achieved your goal, and you were vindicated. You were proven right. Your obsession with defeating Tex led to you being superior to her, so much so that it would take 50 of her to bring you down. Like, that was how good Carolina apparently got, that she could battle 50 of Tex and not be stopped. And you could make some kind of argument, be like, well, you know, I don't know, Tex wasn't up to her normal stuff, or whatever, but the main reason was really just because they wanted the gratuitous fight scene, and the only way to do the kinds of fight scenes that they were consistently doing was if they had 50 characters. They needed a room full of bad guys to act as cannon fodder for this badass hero, because there's no sense of scale, and I have no idea what any of the characters can actually do, because every time they got in a fight, there was like 50 billion people, and sometimes there was like more dramatic things, and sometimes there wasn't. So, no idea what anyone's levels were, no idea what anyone's capabilities were, and at the end of the text battle, it was not any clearer how strong anyone was relative to anything, no more sense of scale than I had before, and also one of the characters had given up on the idea that she could ever beat Tex, because I guess, really, logically, how would you beat someone who can copy herself into 50 different bodies? That is pretty tough to overcome. So yeah, that was the point. That was actually the scene that made me really want to do this personal time, because it was so stupid and it was so badly written. Like, you follow this kind of this thread of okay, yeah, this is the character. She's obsessed with Tex. She wants to rise up and beat Tex, and she starts to complain. She's like, even in death, I can't keep up with Tex. She's lost. I can't get a trail on her. I've just lost her. I don't know. I'm so mad. I hate Tex so much. And so you finally come face to face with this demon you've been chasing all this time. And there's 50 of them for the gratuitous fight scene. Just ruined. Character arc ruined. It's like the writers going along with it's a very basic fundamental plot element, and then you get to the end and it's just we don't know what we're doing. So they're just kind of gratuitous fight scene. And so they find the director. And the director is watching video, home video of his old girlfriend, who was Tex. And he's just leave me a pistol. I think I'm going to shoot myself in the head. And they're just okay, bye. And that's kind of how they end it. They end it with Carolina being hey, Church, do you want to go help battle bad guys with me? And Church is yeah, sure, cool. So, I haven't actually watched past that. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to, because the writing is really dumb, and it wasn't really very funny, and the choreography is interesting, so I'm kind of curious what they're going to do, but a lot of the things that, I could tell that whatever they thought was sort of badass was actually kind of dumb. I dislike their slapstick comedy. I dislike how lowbrow a lot of it got. It just got to be very, very childish. It was kind of dumb. I don't really know what the sense of scale is. But then I also watched all of Sword Art Online and kind of have nothing positive to say about Sword Art Online. So what can I say? I'm one of those people. I'm a sucker for abuse, abusive entertainment. I don't know. I really enjoy really bad entertainment. So I might watch the rest of it, but I haven't decided yet. But I just thought that I would talk about it because, man, I don't know. Seasons 9 and 10. Boy, that was some bad writing, and just kind of interesting. Just wanted to share my thoughts, just wanted to dump them out there about the whole series. So I suppose that'll be it for today. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I will catch you all next time. She's had this look on her face for most of my rambling. I am too loud.